ただいまより林大臣の定例
We would like to start Minister Hayashi's press conference. Please have the floor. Minister, I do not have any statement to make first, so I would like to take the questions from the floor. If you are designated, please mention your affiliation and name your questions. And Iwasawa-san from NHK, please. This is Iwasawa of NHK. At the G7 Hiroshima summit, I have a question. President Zelensky of Ukraine came to Japan on the day the government announced the attendance by him on the meeting. And what is the background in details changing from the online to the real in-person meeting? What kind of a preparation have you made to receive President Zelensky?
So at this G7 Hiroshima summit meeting, the Ukraine situation was high on the agenda. In March, when Prime Minister Kishida visited Ukraine, he requested for the online participation by President Zelensky in the G7 summit meeting, and he received an agreement from President Zelensky. After that, President Zelensky had made a strong request to participate in the summit meeting in person. As the government of Japan, we had made a careful consideration about the agenda as well as the programs for the entire summit. And in the end, we decided that President Zelensky would be visiting Japan to participate in the final day of summit in person. We had made a coordination in advance with G7 countries as well as guest countries, but since this was a diplomatic communication, I'd like to refrain from disclosing any further details. Thank you. Thank you very much. Uechi-san of Asahi Shimbun newspaper, please. Asahi Shimbun newspaper, Uechi. I have a follow-up question. President Zelensky decided to participate in person, which created impact on the summit meeting. This was highly significant because this took place in Hiroshima, and some countries decided to provide F-16 fighter jets and so on, but the message of a promotion of a peace may have been diluted as a result. What is your reaction to this? And rather than confrontation and division, do you think the summit realized peace and harmony?
In this transformational period in history of international society, this G7 Hiroshima summit was held, and we have been able to reaffirm the unwavering unity among G7 countries. G7 leaders, not based upon the division and the confrontation, and towards the realization of the cooperation-based international society, firstly, we are resolved to uphold the open and free international order based upon the rule of law, and also increasing the engagement with the international partners beyond the boundary of G7 membership with countries so-called Global South. These were the two main pillars, and we have come up with the contributions in concrete terms and proactive terms. And we invited 8 invited countries as well as the 7 international organizations to Hiroshima summit, and we had a discussion regarding various issues faced by international society, including food development, health and climate change, energy and the environment. And we have been able to confirm that the G7 is going to engage with the broad-ranging partners in order to face these issues. And we have been able to share the understanding about the concrete actions to be taken. For example, regarding the food issue, which is the eminent issue for the international society, Hiroshima Action Statement on the resilient global food safety and security. That was adopted together with the invited countries in order to establish the comprehensive and resilient and sustainable agriculture and food system in order to respond to this food crisis in the world. And we have concurred to take actions together with them. As G7, based upon the various needs of the Global South, we are going to take a meticulous response, and through the approach based upon the humankind or people, we are going to make a concrete and a proactive contribution to these issues. And through such efforts, we are going to enhance the engagement with Global South countries. And the results of this Hiroshima summit will be leading to the discussion at the G20 New Delhi summit to be held in September with most of the invited countries this time. Hiroike-san from Sankei Shimbun, please have the floor for your question. This is Hiroike of Sankei Shimbun. In the summit, leaders communique, I would like to talk about the comment related to China and opposition to the change of the attempt to change the status quo by force, and also establishing the stable and constructive relationship. And this covers the most of the statement made by the Japanese government so far. A wording has been reflected. And is this the result of the efforts towards the summit to reflect Japan's position?
Well, at this summit meeting regarding China, Prime Minister Kishida directly communicated the common concerns and demanded that China take responsible actions as a member of the international community, and at the same time regarding global challenges and common interests and so on, we should cooperate with China, and through dialogue, constructive and stable relations should be built. This is important, and this recognition has been shared as the G7. On that basis, in the G7 leaders' communique, the leaders would engage China candidly and express concerns. This is important. The importance was recognized, and they confirmed that they are prepared to build such constructive and stable relations with China. And sustainable economic relations with China was mentioned, and rather than decoupling or inward looking through de-risking and diversification, we should realize economic resilience. This is necessary. Also, vis-à-vis China, Russia should be encouraged by China to stop its military invasion, and through a direct dialogue with Ukraine based upon the principles of the UN Charter as well as its purpose in a comprehensive, fair, and permanent manner, peace should be supported. As the government of Japan, based upon the contents of the G7 leaders' communique, we will have a closer cooperation and coordination amongst the G7 members. Thank you very much. Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper, Abe-san, please. Abe of Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper, about the UNSC. In the morning, according to Chief Cabinet Secretary's press conference, in 2032, Japan has filed its candidacy to become a member of the UNSC as a non-permanent member. And even if Japan is elected, after the current term is ended, it will be a distant future. So it will be in 3 years or 6 years time, so the situation will be much different. So what is the reason why you made this judgment of filing a candidacy? For example, within the Asia-Pacific region, there are some countries which have nominated themselves. Has this played into this decision?
Currently, Japan is serving in the 12th term in total of the UNSC, and this is the most among the members of the UNSC. And during this current term as well, and also beyond that, we have been contributing to the discussion at the UNSC in order to maintain the peace of the international community as well as the safety. And we believe that we have carried a responsibility, and the UNSC needs to continue to have the meticulous dialogue while serving to fulfill the responsibility. And we needed to contribute to the leading of the discussion at the UNSC in various forms, and we like to enhance the function of the UN and the international order. And Katsurada of Kyodo Tsushin. Regarding the summit, at the Hiroshima summit, there is a Hiroshima vision on the nuclear disarmament. Prime Minister mentioned that this carries the historic significance, and I believe the focus has been placed on the disclosure of information about the forces of the nuclear. So how are you going to proceed with the disarmament of nuclear weapons?
Well, regarding the G7 leaders' Hiroshima vision on nuclear disarmament, has become a powerful historical document which indicates actions to be taken by us as well as resolve by the G7 leaders to realize the ideal of the world without nuclear weapons. Especially last year, Prime Minister Kishida advocated a Hiroshima Action Plan, and it was welcome during the summit meeting. And also, starting with the importance of continuing non-use of nuclear weapons, the contents of Hiroshima Action Plan are mentioned, and under this plan, we will take actions. So this has become such a strong driving force. And now In implementing Hiroshima Action Plan and taking specific measures regarding the transparency, which will be the foundation of the future nuclear disarmament, objective data about a nuclear potential should be disclosed, and country-by-country implementation report submitted by nuclear weapon states to the NPT review conference, bilateral discussions between non-nuclear weapon states and civil society, as well as IAEA report regarding private plutonium, and leaders have agreed and confirmed to call for specific actions as the government of Japan based upon the G7 Hiroshima vision by the leaders. We will continue the efforts to engage as many nuclear weapon states as possible, and starting with the Hiroshima Action Plan, we will push for realistic and practical initiatives. IWJ Hamamoto-san, please. Thank you very much, Hamamoto of IWJ. The U.S. think tank Eisenhower Media Network ran an opinion ad saying that the U.S. should be a force for the global peace in New York Times. And this letter points out that the NATO's eastern expansion has led to the Ukraine conflicts, and say that President Biden and the U.S. Congress should stop military escalation. And Robert Kennedy Jr. strongly supports this. So depending on the results of the U.S. election, the U.S. diplomacy may change. Does the government of Japan have Plan B?
Since aggression by Russia against Ukraine was started, more than 1 year has passed, and still now Russia is continuing the aggression and attack on Ukraine. And President Putin mentioned that part of the next part of Ukraine is not subject to the negotiation, and there is no sign of making concessions towards peace. And Ukrainian people are continuing to strive to protect their own home countries, and the negotiations to determine their own future of Ukrainians should be determined by Ukrainian people as well. And at the G7 Hiroshima summit held the other day, G7 has expressed the ever stronger unity to continue on the severe sanctions against Russia, to provide this powerful support to Ukraine from all aspects. And as the presidency of G7 held by Japan, we would like to continue to cooperate with like-minded people, including G7 countries, in order to bring about the just and perpetual peace to Ukraine as soon as possible. And we would like to respond to the aggression by Russia against Ukraine. So with this, I would like to conclude the press conference. Thank you very much.